Good morning, everyone. Afternoon, everyone. It's 1 o'clock. Man, time flies. Happy Monday. Thank you for joining us for our Power Hour webinar today on Google Calendar. You've got me, Lissa Evans, today, driving, and Christy Klapsky is here with me, also ready to help answer your questions and help out. So 2 for the price of 1. Congratulations. Just a couple reminders right before we get started. Everyone is muted right now. It's not that we don't love you guys. We do. It's just all the background noise gets to be a little bit much, so you're all muted. If you have questions, go ahead and locate the question box in your GoToWebinar dashboard or panel or whatever's on your screen, and you can type in a question there, and that goes directly to Christy and I, and then we'll either reply to you with a private answer or address it with the group, depending on the question. You can also use the raise hand function, and that kind of lets us know, hold up, slow down, a question is coming, or we might need to review something. So that's kind of the hold up option. Okay, so those are the ground rules. Let's go ahead and get started with Google Calendar. So what you see on your screen right now, hopefully, is my screen. This is just an overview of Google Calendar. A couple things to point out looking at this view. You can see that different events are in different colors, and those correspond with the calendars here on the left. So I have a few different calendars. Tucker Training, that's my main one. Yours at the top probably says your name. That's just your default main calendar. I have a birthdays one. I made one for conferences. So these are all different different calendars I have created, and they layer over each other. So I can quickly see at a glance based on color what's going on. I can turn a calendar on and off depending on if I want to see it or not. You also have one called Reminders that we'll talk more about, but I recommend you use that one. So these are those multiple calendars, and again, you can tell by the color coding what is what. It's easy to change the color. Just click on those 3 dots and you can change it, and when you create it, you set that up as well. As far as the rest of my view, up here in the top left-hand corner, I can quickly scroll through months, and so this is really handy if I'm just trying to grab a quick day for in the future. I can see, oh yeah, that's the 2nd Thursday in April of 2020, so that's the 9th, and I put that in my email or whatever I might need to do. So I can use that, and if I click on one of those days, it'll jump to there. And then if I hit today, back up at the top of the screen, it'll take me back to today. My calendar view right now is in month view, but over on the right-hand side of your screen, there's a box, and mine says month. And if I click on that, I can switch it and choose to view the week, which is kind of more of a schedule view. Well, here's the actual schedule view. Just the day, whatever I want. I can choose to show weekends if I'm on the month view. Whoops. So I can not show weekends or show them. All of this is also going to translate to your phone. We want you to download the Google app. So even if you're using Okta Mobile, you can get to your calendar through there, but that's a weird mobile-friendly version. You want to download the Google Calendar app on your phone or your mobile device. If you're an iPhone user, there is also a way to sync your iCloud calendar, like your Apple Calendar, and your Google Calendar so that they're all talking, and no matter where you have events, they'll talk to each other, which is super convenient. So if you do not have that set up and you would like to, which we recommend, send an email to support@talktotucker.com. That's our IT department, and ask them for the instructions on syncing your Apple Calendar with Google. So again, this will all be similar on your phone. How you get to stuff like the displays is a little bit different, but you can do the same things of choosing if I want to view a month, the week, the day, all that kind of stuff. Works on my phone as well. To add an event, there are a couple ways to do that. I can simply hit Create in the top left-hand corner, and it kind of grabs the day and time that I'm already on just by default, and then I can start typing my event name. I can click on a day and time right there, and it'll grab that where I clicked, that day and time, and I can add my event. And it's going to my Tucker Training, my default calendar. Now here are some cool little tips when you're adding events on your computer. So I'm going to give my event a name, call it Test 1. Maybe I clicked in the wrong spot, or maybe I'm on the month calendar view, so it didn't grab a time, but the point is, as I'm typing my event name, I can also go ahead and say, this is 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., and Google's going to grab that time, and now of course it doesn't whenever I need it to. It does it on my month view. Let me switch that back because it's really convenient. One event. There we go. 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. It's going to grab that time. I can change the calendar right here if I want that to go like on my conferences instead. I can add a description. And I can add a location to it and add guests. So these two, we're going to talk a lot more about the location and guests, and they really do go hand in hand. I'm just going to hit save on that event, and poof, there it is on my conference schedule. Once I have an event, I can click on it and view those details. I can also quickly make an edit to the event. I can delete it. I can email my guests that I invited, which again we'll talk about. Or those three little dots that have a whole bunch of other options. One, actually two that I use the most are duplicate. So if I put this on my calendar, there is a way to make it a reoccurring event that we'll look at. So if you have a meeting, the second Thursday of every month, you can set your calendar up to just have that happen automatically. But sometimes those events don't happen automatically. Your kid has a swim meet, or an accountability group of other realtors gets moved around each month, whatever the situation is, but I want to keep the core details. I can go ahead and select that event, click on those three dots, and I can quickly duplicate it and just update the date, which is really nice. And I can also copy it to another calendar. So if I didn't mean for that to go onto my conferences calendar, I can copy it to my test calendar and then delete my original. And I could just go into the event and modify it and switch the calendar as well. Up to you. Either of those work. So again, those are the options I can do with an event once it is there. There's lots more I can do. So in that event, I clicked on an event I already had and said edit. But this is just like a bigger version of the screen we saw a minute ago when I went to go add an event. And again, everything I'm about to do you can do on your phone. It'll just look a little bit different. So for events, two of the big, important, helpful things within the event are guests and location. So using guests over here, right here on the right, add a guest. I can invite anyone to my event. So I'm going to invite Christy here, for example. They do not have to be a Tucker user. They do not even have to technically be a Gmail user, but they might not be able to add it to their calendar. So maybe I'm going to add one of my old emails. There we go. I just added someone from outside the Tucker organization, just typed in their email address. You can also choose what guests can do. So if I'm going to send this calendar item, this appointment, to these two people, I probably don't want them to modify it because we've already set up the time for some reason, or I've dictated the time, so I'm going to leave that unchecked, but I can check it so that they can modify it if we decide as a group to adjust the time. I can choose if I want them to be able to invite others to this event or not. And then see the guest list. This one is kind of nice and kind of sneaky. Sometimes you don't want the other people to see who you have invited, so if you uncheck that, they won't be able to see that. That'll be hidden. But those are the defaults, allowing them to invite others and see the guest list. So that's inviting people. And when someone invites you, common courtesy, even if you've already put it on your own calendar or you're using a different calendar, go ahead and say yes. That's just really nice because then everyone is on the same page. If we have to bump the event by a day or an hour, that event can get updated and everyone knows. You can have notes in there that go to everyone and you're sure that they see them and they pop up on the calendar item with the reminder. So if, again, if someone sends you that calendar invitation, even if you already have it on yours, go ahead and accept it. Then if you want to delete your own, you can. Or if you're the one saying, let's all get together for this, accountability group, just someone needs to say, I'll send the invitation, and someone send it out. So help your fellow people out, basically. So those are guests, and then kind of going hand in hand with guest location. So this is super helpful. because say this meeting that we're going to have it at Wolfie's. If you guys have never heard of Wolfie's or been to Wolfie's, we love it. It's tasty. They have great drinks. But there are multiple of them. So if I just say we're going to Wolfie's, which one do I mean? Hopefully, during our conversations, I say, let's go to the one in Fishers, but someone still might think that is a different one than the one it actually is. So if I go ahead and put in the actual address or select the actual location here, those guests that I invite will see that address right on their calendar invitation. So it really cuts down on confusion. Once I've made any adjustments, I hit save. And now I'm being prompted, do you want to send invitations to these guests? I mean, most of the time, yes. Why would you not want to? So I hit send, and it's off. So as these people RSVP to my event, if they mark it as a yes or a no, I'll see a check mark next to the name or a red X saying no. And again, I can do all of that when I'm creating the event as well. So here's another test. It's going to be 12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. Oops. And Google's going to grab that time. See how it just grabbed it for me? I can invite my guests right here. I can tell them where we're going to meet. Oops, I clicked on rooms. Add location. Starbucks, that's a pretty big category. But there we go, North Meridian Street. That's us, I hope. Meet to talk about co-listing big, awesome home. And then which calendar I want it to go on, if it's not this one, and save. So just when I created that event, I was able to set the location for it, invite someone, change which calendar I wanted it to go on to, all of that just in one swoop. It's really easy. Okay. So a couple other things with calendar. So I keep talking a lot about how I'm choosing which calendar for these events to go on. So if I don't want them to all go onto my main default one, I like to have multiple calendars. I kind of have to for my position here, but I like to have multiple because I can easily turn them on and off. So I can have a business one that if I'm on vacation, I could uncheck it, or on my phone even uncheck it, so I don't have to see it. I don't have to stress about that business. I'm on vacation. I can have a calendar for my kids' events, and again, turn it on and off. Even if you're not using that on and off feature, just having that different color coding is so helpful. Just gives you that quick glance of, oh, wow, this is a really heavy work day. This is a really heavy kid day, or whatever might be going on. So to add additional calendars here, a little not very intuitive, actually, which is weird for Google, but down here where it says Other Calendars, I click that plus sign, and there are a number of options I can choose here of subscribing to someone else's calendar, add a calendar from the internet. Most of the time you're not going to be doing that, but what you're going to do is you're going to create a new calendar. So we give our calendar a name. So maybe I call it personal. Hit create, and it takes a minute. And this personal calendar is maybe going to be all of my personal stuff, my hair appointments, my nail appointments, when I schedule myself to go to the gym to make sure I get there, because if I don't schedule it, I won't go. Things like that. And then maybe I share that calendar with my husband so he can see what I'm doing and where I'm going to be. My husband and I actually, for example, because we don't have kids, so we don't have like that type of carpooling and craziness to deal with, but what we do have is a calendar called dinners. And so when we plan dinners for the week, I put on there for each day what we're having, so he knows to kind of plan his lunch around that. We know how to shop for it, and it's our version of meal planning, all on a shared calendar, and I can just turn it on and off because I don't need to view it all the time. All right, so my calendar was created, my personal one. Right. Not showing up. Let's make sure. There it is. I had to go back to go ahead and see it. But now I'm going to go ahead and go back into it with settings and sharing. And now I can change the name of it if I want. I can set a default time zone. If for some reason I needed to mess with that, you probably don't. One big thing here, if I want to make it available to the FC Tucker Company, yes or no. So that would be if I want others to be able to join my calendar, and I don't, so I'm going to uncheck that. I can get a shareable link. This is going to come into play in a little bit when we talk about ideas for different calendars. Well, we'll talk about it right now. So for sharing with specific people, that's the next section. This is an example of, like I was saying, if I wanted to add my husband to this calendar, I would hit add people. I would type his name in or his email address. This is not it, but pretend. And then I can choose the permission level. What do I want him to be able to do? Just see if I'm free and busy, but not actually see the event details. I don't need him to know that I'm off getting my hair done. I just need him to know that I'm not available, for example. See all the event details, exactly what it sounds like. Make changes to events. That's big, because maybe I want him to see all the details, but I don't want him to be able to edit. So those are two different things. And if he can make changes to the events, he can see the details. Or make changes and manage sharing. So he could invite other people to the calendar, for example. So this is kind of organized as far as like the most permissions to the least. So your option for that person that you invite is going to change depending on what the calendar is and who the person is. So if it's something like this, personal, I probably want them to be able to see all event details. So I set that up, hit send, and then at this email address, they've received an invitation that I've invited them to join a calendar. It'll show up in their own Google Calendar. Easy peasy, I can always remove them. So we talked about the calendar I just made as an example is a personal one. One way to use Google Calendar to stay organized is to create different calendars for different transactions. So I could create a calendar for 123 Main Street, my listing. And if I want, I can share that whole calendar with my clients. And on that calendar, I can have a date for when the listing expires. Once it pins, I can add dates on there for the inspection date, for when inspection responses are due, for the closing date, for all those dates along the way, and I know it's going to show up on their calendar as well. Now, you don't know if they're checking their calendar, you don't know if they're looking at it, so you can't just assume that they know everything that you've put on there, so be careful. The other heads up, when it comes to notifications, I can set a notification for an event. So I can say notify me 30 minutes beforehand or a week beforehand or whatever it is. But that notification only applies to me. It does not apply to someone I have shared the calendar or the event with. So again, I can get them the calendar invitation, but I can't guarantee they're going to remember it's there or they're going to view it. So just heads up with that. This is where I can set up some other notifications for this calendar. So if I gave that person I just added to it permission to change events, I can be notified if they do. Different types of notifications there. Or I can completely delete the calendar. The difference between the shareable link and the share with specific people, it just has to do with, well, like our Tucker training shared calendar, we give you a link that you can use to join it so that you can see all of our training events coming up. And we just put that link on our digital class schedule. I don't think it's on my email signature, but like all the new agents get a link to it. So that's how you use the link instead of having to add someone to your calendar each time. Most of the time for you guys, for your use, you're probably going to be just maybe adding one or two people to a calendar, a partner or spouse, so they can see what you're doing, or clients if you're having a shared calendar with the client. So you don't have to worry too much about that link sharing. Let's see if we have any. Do you guys have any questions so far? Remember, if you do have questions, use that questions panel or use the raise hand function. If you haven't joined our shared calendar yet, you should. So this is how a shared calendar works. If you had joined it, you would be seeing it down here. It would be displayed here as an other calendar, and again, you can turn it on and off. The way we use our shared calendar is for all of our training events. So if you see an event you want to go to, like this buy-side training coming up on August 29th, you can click on it. There's a description. There's a registration link, and you could even copy it to your own calendar. I will try and send out an email to all of the attendees today with a link to the video of this webinar, and I'll try and remember to include a link to our shared calendar, but it is in our digital class document, and it's linked in the bottom of the Buzz every week. Another time we recommend using shared calendars is with the CRM. If you've been to one of our CRM trainings, you know that you can sync the CRM with your Google Calendar, which is awesome. When you sync it, you select which calendar you want to sync with. And if you only have the one, your default one, that's fine. Just remember, it's a two-way sync, so any events you're adding to your generic default calendar there are going to go into your CRM and vice versa. So if I'm, kind of like what I talked about before, if I don't want all my nail appointments going into the CRM, that's why I might want to have that personal calendar that those things go on to. And then my CRM syncs with maybe my default one at that point, but my default is used for just work stuff. Or you can create a calendar called business or called work or called CRM like mine, and I choose to sync that with the CRM instead. The reason you want to have the CRM calendar syncing with Google Calendar is that you only have to check one place for various dates. So one of the best features with the CRM is the birthday and move-in anniversary notifications and reminders. So if you have clients in your CRM and you have birthdays and move-in dates for them, those dates will show up on your calendar in the CRM. But you want them to show up in your face. You want to be obvious, not just to have to log into the CRM to see them. So by syncing with my Google Calendar, I'm going to see all of those on my Google Calendar, whether I'm on my computer like this or on my phone. Same thing with, like I mentioned before, if you need to sync your iPhone calendar, if you're adding events to your iPhone calendar, or maybe you already have a shared calendar with your family at home and you don't want to make them all switch to Google, that's fine. But you don't want to have to be checking multiple calendars, so by having everything talk, you can just check one, and everything is good to go. So those are the basics of Google Calendar. Again, all of this you can do on your phone. I want to say the exception and before it used to be maybe like sharing a whole calendar with someone. I think you have to do that from the desktop version. I haven't tried in such a long time. But if that's the case, it's just those couple random things. Otherwise, they're going to work very smoothly, seamlessly. Events you put on one, you'll see on the other. And again, just to kind of refresh, you can change your view. So month, day, week, all of that. I can create multiple calendars. I can change color coding of these calendars. I just changed that test calendar to always be that kind of gold color. I can invite people to certain events. I can share an entire calendar with people. Either way. I can always revoke either of those privileges. And in my event, I can add all kinds of notes. I can set a location. It's just a really great way to keep myself organized, but also make sure other people that I'm collaborating with or that are involved in transactions or just my life in general stay on the same page with me and we all know what's going on. So, all right, again, if you have questions, let us know. Those are the basics. If you need to see any advanced or have advanced questions, type those into that questions panel, reach out to us later, send us an email, whatever works for you. But get using your Google Calendar. Oh, you know which one I forgot, Christy? Reminders. How about that? That I forgot reminders. There's something kind of ironic about that. So that reminders calendar I told you guys about, make sure you have that turned on and checked. This is really convenient. This is like a to-do list that goes with you. So if I need to, on Tuesday, go to Target, I never have to be reminded of that, but let's just say I do. Oops. It's not an event. It's a reminder. And I can give myself a time, or I just say all day, and it's going to move with me. So once I do that thing, I mark it as complete, and it won't remind me anymore. But otherwise, it'll keep moving with me. So until I mark that I've done it, it keeps moving, which is nice. So make sure you have reminders turned on. And again, if you're going to use that, when you go to create your event, it's reminder right here. Or if you're using Google Keep, we talked about that last month. If you set a reminder for a note in Google Keep, that is where it shows up. So, okay, now for real, I think that was it for Google Calendar. I can't believe I almost forgot reminders. I really should have set myself a reminder about that. If you have questions, let us know. Start exploring it, start poking around, and use it, guys, all right? It'll help you stay organized. Thanks for coming out this afternoon, spending a few minutes with us, and we will see you next month. Right? Have a good one.